Hello, and welcome back to Podcast with a K. I'm your host, Carla with a K, and we are back on another fine podcast evening here on WECS 90.1 FM, Twitch, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if so, then for you, it's after Wednesday at noon. So welcome. You made it halfway through the week, and I'm so happy for you. If not, then that's a little sneak peek of what the future has to offer. So in any case, I hope it's a great time and you're tuning in right now to a great show. We have, as promised, a new guest in the virtual studio. You just heard the song um, Down by Soft Spot, and I am joined here by Gianni from Soft Spot. So hi, welcome. Tell
Hey,
us
what's
tell us
up? Thanks
about
for
yourself.
having
Tell
me.
us about the song.
So we are Soft Spot. We're a band from Stamford, Connecticut. We're kind of like, I'd say like grungy, shoegazy kind of space rock. And Down is the last single that we just put out a few weeks ago off our upcoming album that's coming out in June. So super stoked that Down is out because it's actually, I think, well, I mean, I love a bunch of the songs on this album, but it's probably one of my favorite songs that we've recorded for this record. So I'm super stoked that it's out and that people have been finally able to hear it. And thank you for people like you who are allowing me to be able to talk about, this stuff. Because without that, I mean, I wouldn't be able to just like randomly speak about my music and stuff. So this is so cool. So thank you for having me.
Of course. It's always, I think, a great time to be able to see what the tomorrow of music looks like. And this is a vibe. I feel like usually on the podcast we feature stuff from kind of all genres, honestly, but I feel like we don't have a lot of shoegazy music on here. So I guess, while we're in the process of getting ahead of ourselves, as far as the song is concerned, I did a little bit of research. I did a little bit of reading up on y'all, and I think that this song and you guys found myself in the podcast at the perfect time because last week we talked on the show about how I have a tendency whenever I feel stuck in life to do a YOLO trip and just go somewhere, reset, come home, and figure it out. Um, and that mentality works during the YOLO trip, but when you come back, it's like, oh man, well, now what's next? How do I keep that energy going and how do I not sink back into my own ways?
Hmm.
And from what I read, I believe you'd said that Down is kind of about the fear of starting something new, but you're feeling held back still by kind of like your past. So I wanted to pick your mind more about that, kind of as much as you're willing to share, as vaguely as you need to explain it. But, what led to this song? What led to that point of musical self expression?
I mean, I think a lot of these songs I've wrote at like a similar part of my life. I had just like come out of a long relationship and I was like the only way that I could like say stuff without, having to like talk to the person or like if you don't get to talk to the person that, you really want to talk to and stuff and it's like but I don't know, Down and all these other songs kind of came at the same time, so it's all kind of within a similar feeling similar like m musical like ideologically like it's all kind of the same, but Down, when I started writing it, it came together pretty quickly. Some songs really take a long time, but like Down, like I came up with the chord progression. I pitched it to my band, to Dave and to Mark, and I was like playing through it. I was like, "What do you guys think about this?" And I had already been playing around with like the first verse because I was like kind of just dealing with my own thoughts and feelings at the time, and trying to get that out. And it's nice to. It's really cathartic writing a song. I mean, a lot of times for me, I feel when I like relive a moment or relive like something when I'm putting it into a song, it's really tough. Like, it's especially like, like just the emotion, like reliving it and stuff. It's heavy for me sometimes. So I know it's like it means something and I know it might mean something to somebody else when I feel that while I'm writing a song. And like when I was writing Down, it really hit me.
Right.
And that and I mean our song High and Dry, like those two kind of really hit me pretty hard when we wrote it. But um, yeah, it was like Down is kind of this song that it's like, you're kind of afraid of what's to come, but you know that you need to kind of move on and kind of pick up yourself and get over, whatever is bogging you down and bothering you. And but yeah, I love Down. I love the sound of it and the lyricism of it and stuff. It's I don't know, it means a lot to me. So I'm glad to be able to hear like putting out the song in the world and hearing what other people get out of it, because I mean, like I could have whatever I feel and whatever I put into the song, but people could get, a million things from it and stuff. So it's really cool when I get to hear how people feel from it or what they get out of it and stuff. So, because I mean, it doesn't, obviously it matters to some degree with how, what I put into it and the feeling behind it, but I think it's more important for music and for me musically for like other people to connect with it somehow and to get their own, you know, um, thing out of it, their own feeling and emotion out of it. And so I'm glad that Down's out and I'm able to share it with the world.
Yeah, and it's so cool that you'd say that. That I need to make a compilation of every time I've interviewed a musician and they've said something along the same lines of what's really cool about, writing a new song, especially one that you feel strongly about, is seeing what the audience perceives from it. Because even though you have your own situation that you think of whenever you write something like this, all of us listening are obviously going to interpret it and adapt it to our own lives. And that's cool. It's what brings us all together. And like I said, for you, it seems like this song stemmed from a more emotional heartbreak sort of situation with a relationship, and I'm
Mhm.
kind of leaning more towards like the struggle and the disappointment of like being kind of unhappy, or maybe not unhappy, but just not content with where you are. Um,
Totally.
and it's also a really good time for it in the springtime, right? To put out a song about learning to move on and start anew and start fresh and be okay with that. Because I feel like a lot of times when it comes to something like this, there's kind of an attitude of, you've it doesn't matter what happened, move on, right? And a song like this is no, 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 how do you move on while still, even while that's still with you, right? I don't feel like moving on has to be a night and day shift, like, all right, it happened, it's over, good riddance, see ya,
Oh,
like
absolutely. It takes time.
yeah, exactly. And I feel like it's an
Totally.
important skill to have, to be able to learn to move forward with that weight still on you.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree.
So now that we let the song kind of introduce you to us by itself, I want to hear more about you guys and the band, and how y'all came to be. I know it's gonna be, what, we'll consider this interview kind of like one of those like speed meeting type of situations. You got to tell us like your
Totally.
name, where you came from, what you're up to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so Soft Spot like started back kind of during the pandemic. I was in a band, it's kind of like a hardcore punk band, and I had just got out of college a couple years before that, and I was looking for bandmates. I was looking for people to play with. I was just like looking for a community because I knew I loved music. I knew I loved playing it. I just like didn't have people in Connecticut or around me that knew that I could make a band and I had taken my bandmate up and he was, talking about starting a new band and I was like, "Oh dude, I've been dying. Like I wanted to be in a band, like I've been looking for bandmates, so I'd love to start something." And we started something super silly and like lighthearted. It wasn't like exactly like what Soft Spot is, but kind of evolved to that, and then the pandemic kind of killed that band and me and my old drummer had started what Soft Spot was and then my drummer ended up, we ended up parting ways, and then Mark moved back to, because I know Mark, my drummer from high school, and so he lived in Philly for a little bit. So like he ended up moving back to Connecticut, and we used to jam back in the day, and so then we ended up getting back together and just making, just playing and jamming and stuff. And I needed a drummer, and so he kind of had that I was looking to fill. I'm so sorry. But and then my bandmate Dave, I had met him like a year after the pandemic. We were playing with his band Matt and the Marauders, and I was playing with my old drummer, and it was just a White Stripes style kind of thing, and
Okay.
it was just like drums and guitar, and then I found Dave, and we played a gig with him, and he asked if we needed a bass player, and I was like, dude, absolutely. We jammed with him, and instantly I like made a connection with him like that first night that we jammed. He was just like such a nice dude, like such a genuine person. Like really from there appreciated his presence in the band because he really, I mean, filled out just not even the low end, but just just a good dude, just a good dude to be around, a nice guy, and just somebody who's looking to like grow musically and grow as a person, because I think that's like super important when you're looking for bandmates, is like people who are willing to grow and get better and be not just a better musician but a better person and stuff. So it's like, I appreciate, the bandmates that I have, because I think that they have a similar idea of like, what they want out of this thing. And, I think we've kind of, um, it's nice to be able to come together with people who have a similar goal as you, and, as you do. So I'm super thankful to have met them, because it took me a long time to like find bandmates who are like super serious and, just willing to do this, like this band thing, like, playing shows, putting out music, touring, playing out of state. I mean, it's important to do all that stuff, and, there's obviously sometimes it's hard with life and things. And so I'm super thankful that, me and my bandmates are about it and, willing to make this happen. But yeah, it took me a long time to find them, so I'm glad that I found my community. And I'm glad to have the Connecticut music community. And I really enjoyed going out to shows. When I first started, I would just go out to New Haven and meet people, and that's how I kind of met a lot of bands and stuff, was just going to shows and seeing familiar faces. And then you just make these connections, and you start playing shows. People start asking to play shows, just because you support. That's the biggest thing, is like supporting, your friends, and supporting just people around you. It
Yeah.
like goes such a long way.
Everyone's a local artist till they make it to the big leagues.
100%.
That is super inspiring to hear. And it's also really interesting to hear you talk about it from the technical aspect. I always love hearing that kind of work inside in a conversation, like you're talking about, this person was a great fit for the band, not just because they fit in this role musically, but also just as a person. I like hearing the
Yeah.
contrast because that makes it
Oh
seem
yeah.
like you have like your head on straight with this goal and with what the project is, but also in surrounding yourselves with good people, which, is also apparent in the fact that you built this network just showing up to shows and being supportive of other people in the area. That's super, super huge.
Yeah, no, community is so important. And I think once people like realize that, and because sometimes people ask me like, how do we play shows, or how we know people, or how do I, do we just like, how do we get shows and stuff? And
Yeah.
honestly, the biggest thing is just going out to shows and supporting people, and, supporting your friends. You don't have to spend money all the time. I mean, sometimes it'd be nice if, you bought a t-shirt from your friend once in a while, but, even just going to like reposting a poster, reposting a post or whatever, just like going out to see a show or whatever, it all like it means so much to people. It means so much to us, so and it goes a long way. And then it makes you, if you're in a band, if somebody, one of my friends' bands, or even somebody that's not my friend who's comes to my show, like I'll want to go and support them and go see their show too, I mean, I usually do just go out in general to shows and stuff,
Right.
but so important, it like means so much, it is really important to the community aspect too. You can't just all like, you just can't take, you really have to give.
Yeah, 100%. And, that's something that I think I truly admire because that's something that I've heard with bands of all scales, right? Like the important thing is always, being able to grow together, right? If it's something that you're not doing, put somebody on that can do it and vice versa. It's kind of a symbiotic sort of relationship with everyone in the creative space. And, again, it's always heartwarming to talk to people who kind of have that sense of community, especially because that's what the podcast is about for me, at least. Is I like talking to
Totally.
people from everywhere and hearing what everyone's up to and supporting and promoting as much as I can. Like my little corner of the world today, the world tomorrow. So I do want to hear more about something you said. You said that you originally started in punk rock and now you're doing shoegaze. So I want to hear about that journey first, and then I also have a couple more questions on this because this is the part that I always find interesting.
Yeah, so the first band we started was like a hardcore punk band, and it was like really different than what I was ever like would have thought I was gonna venture into. Um And so what's funny too is like we the three of us in Softspot play in another band called People's Club, which is like a punk rock party band, kind of like really fun, punk rock kind of band. And that I mean that came along while we were doing Softspot, but that basically evolved from our old band. So my bass player Dave, he's like the punk guy. Like he, when we first started, that was his life. He was a punk rocker. He wasn't like, I mean, he plays in a bunch of other he plays in a bunch of other bands and stuff because he's a bass player. So like, everybody recruits him to play in their band. I mean,
Naturally.
now he's kind of slowed down a little bit with all the projects and stuff, but because we're super busy. But he was the punk rock guy. Like he introduced me to a lot of that like real like punk rock stuff, and like especially when I was like when we were first kind of starting figuring out, because we have in People's Club, it's all like kind of character kind of thing. Like we all have built this persona and character. So like when I was kind of figuring out my persona, he was showing me like videos of like Iggy Pop and like all these like old like 70s punk rockers and stuff. And and that stuff's just so cool. It's infectious seeing these guys like, just these people go out and like, really rocking and having a great time, and just being I don't even know if it's themselves, just like being like this unadulterated version that's just like, just ready to like have fun and rock and stuff. And I love that I get to have that for People's Club. But like when I first met Dave, he was the punk rocker, and then I got to bring him back into punk rock because we played with Softspot. We were doing Softspot for a little bit, and then we started People's Club, and it is so much different than the two bands are so much different. But I think it helps me, it kind of feeds me like one into the other. Like I feel like I'm not so hell bent on one specific thing or making
Sure.
one specific kind of music, or like, I can kind of just sit down and make music, or, and if something fits something or whatever. I'm trying to also do like other venture into other genres, into other like I have some solo stuff that I'd like to also record and put out this year too. So it's like it's nice to be able to have other outlets and avenues and
Yeah.
not have to like be so dead set on soft spots, this one thing. I have like other music that I can make and have fun with, and get to work, play around with other genres and stuff, and not just
Mhm.
be so hell bent on soft spot being this one thing when I have like other influences and stuff going on from other genres and other things. And so I appreciate having other bands and being a part of other bands, because I think that it helps me to be creative with my soft spot stuff and with other stuff, and not be so like stuck in the stuck
Yeah.
in my ways about certain things.
And then you're also not pigeonholing yourself. You're also not muddling kind of the vision of one or the other band, right? Like you're able to play around, and there's always like room to learn from one and implement it into the other. That's, I
Oh,
think, also a
absolutely.
really cool factor of that. So my question now is, because you're saying that it's your bass player Dave that's the one that's more into like punk rock. What is it that you listen to whenever you're not making music? Like if you're not doing something for the sake of having a creative outlet, what are you actually listening to?
I feel like most of the stuff that we make is just influenced by a lot of the stuff that I'm listening to, and I really like I try to get out of like the stuff that I'm listening to a lot, but I listen to a lot of the same stuff a lot.
Sure.
Um, so I think stuff that I'm, especially for like soft spot stuff, and for the last record and stuff, I've been listening to a lot of like Alice in Chains and Hum. Really 90s bands are really where I
Yeah.
get my influence from. But I like Super Heaven too. They're like a grunge band of the last 15 years.
Mhm.
Um, Narrowhead, they're from Texas. They're like one of my favorite bands. They definitely inspire me a lot musically. Um, but I listen to a lot of psychedelic rock too, and I think that kind of like kind of rubs off into soft spot too,
Yeah.
because I don't really think about it much, but
That's
there
a
are
good bridge
some.
into shoegaze, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny because I feel like I wouldn't put them two like together, but then when you like listen to them like separately, like there are so many
Yeah.
similarities and whatever, So I love King Gizzard.
Yeah.
I like Hond. like the psychedelic porn crumpets. Who else? What other psychedelic rock bands? Now I'm blanking, but I think before Soft Spot was a lot of, and I mean, I've always loved grunge, but like psychedelic rock was like the thing that I've
Yeah, that's
really,
kind of like your center point.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the last few years, like with Soft Spot and stuff, I've gotten more into shoegaze and um, kind of more ambient kind of things. Like
Yeah, like a Boy
I,
Harsher, Drab Majesty kind of attitude.
yeah, heck yeah, absolutely. So I don't know, I'm open to a lot of stuff too, and I love hearing new music that makes me really think. So it's like I
Mhm.
try to really listen to new stuff, and because I don't want to be, stuck in this like specific way, like things have
Yeah,
to sound a certain way. It's like I'm excited for this Soft Spot record because that's coming up because I feel like a lot of it is, I mean, it's songs written over a few years, but it's all very like kind of different feeling like it's all these genres that I really love kind of put into,
sure.
one thing. And so, but not all the songs are going to have the similar vibe or sound the same, or like one song might be like a quintessential shoegaze song, and then one song might be like more of a psychedelic rock, kind of like prog rock kind of,
Yeah,
and then one might just be a grungier kind of more moody, heavy kind of thing, so it's like,
right.
I don't know. I'm trying to put all these influences into the thing that I'm doing so that hopefully in 10 years from now, our music will be, like
Retro future
varied.
timeless.
Yeah, just have this variation to it that I'm like, I mean, it's cool to have a sound, and I'm definitely trying to like capture that sound and, have that, like you hear a soft spot song and you're like, that's a soft spot song.
Yeah,
But I'm just trying to keep it like, fresh and different
of
and,
course.
not be so like, have like be so clouded about one thing and want one thing out of it, like because I think that Soft Spot is this
Yeah,
beautiful, fully encompassing thing musically, and I'd like to kind of continue with that.
of course. And I think that's good for retaining an old audience and giving them something new to listen to and also grabbing new people along the way.
Hmm.
My question now
Totally.
though is so you said you and Dave, we have punk rock, we have kind of a psychedelic rock. Where does Mark fit into this?
So growing up, Mark used to listen to a lot of like hip hop and R&B, and like because he's a
Oh,
drummer, so like he
yeah.
likes really like
Like
those
really
like
rhythmic,
groovy.
like groovy. Okay, I
Yeah,
see
yeah,
it.
yeah, absolutely, like real groovy, those like time signatures and drum,
Yeah.
patterns and stuff. But as of, the last few years since we've been getting into this band, I've definitely got him into more shoegaze and,
You're corrupting
definitely
everybody.
100%, just corrupting. It's just like, I feel like to me, shoegaze is like this like subconscious music almost, like especially like dive, like it's this like it's like almost like my thinking music, like it's like
Yeah.
this it's not this forefront like a lot of the times like like if you're listening to like a rock song or something that's kind of in your face, like
Right.
what's it called? Shoegaze can kind of be in the back, like it's like
Yeah.
the vocals are a bit subdued.
It's good mellow music.
It's just this, I love it because it's like, kind of real subconscious music. And but yeah, Mark, he was a real R&B like hip hop kind of guy. So I'm surprised, and I'm glad that he's into this kind of stuff because you never know, especially you know if you never listen to that stuff. But he
Yeah.
likes it. So I mean, I think. I mean, yeah, he listens to it. So
I would hope so.
I would
But I
hope
kind of
so.
agree. Shoegaze is to me kind of like the same energy as like the what is it that got viral on YouTube? The chill lo-fi hip hop beats to study to, where it's like something you
Yeah.
can have on in the background. But I like shoegaze because it's more engaged, and I feel like lo-fi like those like kind of chill like just beat loops they eventually get redundant and you tune them out. Whereas shoegaze keeps giving you something new to like to want to listen to the next song in. Like it's definitely like something that say that you have a band that has a million albums, you could listen to that start to finish throughout your day and not really feel the need to change the station or to, pick something new or a new playlist.
Oh, absolutely. That's how I feel about King Gizzard too, a lot of
Yeah.
times, because their music is just like, even though sometimes they'll have like a 15-minute song, it just flows so nicely. And the
It
same thing with
stays
shoegaze.
interesting all the way through.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. That's the thing I love about shoegaze is it does kind of stay. It could be the same chord progression or like a similar sound, but it just like it carries itself and it just progresses so nicely that it doesn't seem like you're like listening to the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good vibe. It's a good vibe for sure. All right, so we have reached about our halfway point here on the show, so I think it's time for a little bit of a song break to kind of give our listeners a little bit of an example of what we're talking about with your sound. So I do have a song queued up for you next. The next song that we have queued up for you guys is Loose. So do you want to intro it? Tell us a little bit about it.
Oh yeah, all right. So Loose was the first single that's come off of our debut album, came out in January. It's kind of one of the more, I think, grungier songs that we've put together. It was something that me and Dave, like, I think this was the first time me and Dave really started working on something together rather than me like coming with a chord progression and then us playing with it or like, and then me putting lyrics on top of it. It was like me and Dave were trying to make something heavy and like something that was kind of like in the vein of how Loose came out. You know, we were like really focused on doing something like that. So we just played through. It's in drop D, so it's a kind of it's got that
That like
classic
alternative tuning kind
grunge.
of, yeah.
Yeah, it's got that classic grunge sound to it. So we were just playing around and um, it really it came about a lot quicker than I thought it was gonna. Like the lyrics, we played it one night in our studio space, and then the next day I was like, hey, I'm gonna go write some lyrics in my backyard, and I went outside and I just like listened to the recording, and then I had my guitar too, so I was like kind of playing through it, and I was like, I don't know, the first thing that came up, I was like, I'm feeling loose, and I was like, I've been feeling kind of loose, like I don't know, I feel. So it kind of from there,
Yeah, it took shape.
it took shape, yeah, big time, so I like Loose a lot because it is kind of a heavier, you know kind of like uh it's sort of this like it's almost like a grunge anthem, it's
Yeah.
like I like we all kind of can connect, or like we all can kind of like yeah, connect with like the chorus, like I get in the way of myself, like no
Oh
control over
man,
what
that's
happens,
so
like
true.
I'm a freak. I just can't help it. Like sometimes it's like we can't do anything but
Yeah.
just be who we are and, try to,
We all feel like
to
the
get
miss
by.
or the outcast at some point in our own stories. So it's a
Absolutely.
good anthem. You're right. So all right, let's listen to that so we can get back to the combo. Here is Loose by Soft Spot. All right, that was Loose by Soft Spot. I'm joined here by Gianni from Soft Spot. You're listening to WECS 90.1 FM. If you're just now joining us, podcast with a K. It's happening. We're here with a guest. It's a good week. So about the song, um, it's really, really, first of all, really cathartic if you're ever feeling that kind of way. And the lyrics just hit, you know? Sometimes, like, the only person standing in the way between you and your future is yourself, whether that's self doubt, whether that's because you got knocked down and you're still in your feelings about it, or whether, you just don't know how to move forward. But still knowing that, like, at the end of the day, you have to move forward, right? So, my question to you is because I'm noticing a bit of a theme, and not for nothing, but you do have a new album coming out that's called This Will Make You Cry. And the two songs that we've heard so
Mhm.
far, I feel it. I feel like the emotion, it's very raw and it's very real. So my question here is, you know, whenever it comes down to it, like, how do you keep yourself motivated to keep moving forward, like even when like you're aware like there's some stuff that's happened and it's holding you back, and sometimes like this song tells us it's only you holding yourself back.
See, I always know that there's heartbreak on the horizon, so new songs will always write themselves. No, I'm just kidding. So sort of. But no, I don't know. I love music so much, and I get such a kick out of playing. And I'm so glad that like Sauceput's been fortunate enough to play a lot of shows in the last couple of years, and especially this past year alone. I mean, we went on our first tour, and we're about to go on tour for this record and stuff. So I love music. I love playing for people. I love getting to hang out with my friends too after a show. Like nothing is like that. But It's I don't know, I feel like the sun also motivates me a lot. Like when the springtime hits and like the sun's blaring and I got my guitar outside and I could just like write a song and feel good. Um, it really hits. So my inspiration comes from, just loving music. I don't know. I really truly, it is such an awesome thing. I'm so happy to be able to have music and to, have this community. And um, I don't have really anything else in my life that I feel like I love as much as playing music. So I'm so thankful and grateful that I, have the opportunity to, and, you know, um, so it's just like inspiration comes from anywhere. I mean, a lot of it does come from heartbreak, and I'm trying to kind of like for this next record kind of find other inspiration and kind of avenues that I can write my more music that will connect with people that doesn't have to do necessarily with a heartbreak, but
Sure.
um, heartbreak is something that we all kind of connect with, and um, a lot of times, like I said before, like I when I write a song, like it'll make me cry, and that's how I know it'll connect with somebody else. So like
Hmm.
um, this will make you cry is like, I myself have cried from writing it, so I can only hope that like, it might also make other people cry. But it's also it is sort of a homage to my ex-girlfriend because it's like in hopes not that she's gonna cry, but
Right.
I
No, of
mean,
course.
it's all these songs are written about a similar time of life and stuff. So it's that was my idea was like, well, if you're gonna give me this experience, you're gonna give me this, yeah, I hope this makes you cry with this record,
Right.
or this will make you cry with this record,
Not
you
that
know.
it's similar in any way, shape, or form at all, but this is a very Taylor Swift mentality, right? Of like, oh no, heartbreak's gonna happen anyway. Might as well write $1 million song about it.
Yeah, seriously.
No, but that's funny. I think this is kind of self-fulfilling prophecy in a way, in that like the songs, like you said, they write themselves, and it's not that like you're looking to be heartbroken to write a song, but it's more so like something is going to happen and you're going to come out the other side anyway. And luckily for you, you're going to make something golden out of it because your outlet happens to be creative. And so,
Absolutely.
it's not like, again, it's not like I'm gonna get heartbroken and then you go and do it. It's more so like it's gonna happen, but I'm gonna be okay. And so you're kind of manifesting that light at the end of the tunnel consistently, right? It's one of those situations in which the only way out is through. And that kind of really
Absolutely.
resonates, at least in the two songs that we've heard. I won't speak for the rest of the album or anything else, but just in these two songs, like that's kind of like the constant tone. Like, it sucks, but there's still tomorrow.
Definitely. There always is tomorrow, and we never realize it, especially when we're like bogged down with the stuff right now. But it really, we could just once you push through it, things change, and the time really does heal.
Yeah, 100%. Um, which is interesting too because, I feel like with the album being This Will Make You Cry, it's not necessarily even, again, like the first song about like moving past things that have happened. It's about embracing them and letting them build you into who you're going to be the next day.
Hmm.
So I have a question now, which is, in a theme with these songs and this conversation so far. I won't make you talk about your past. What is it that is coming up for you next? Whether it's in the band or in your life or, with the tour. What's something that you have to start, but you're afraid to start right now? Just a nice little callback to your lyrics.
Oh wow, something. Oh boy, that's not a question I would have thought I would have got.
We get real on the podcast.
No, we're getting so real. I would say probably. I mean, truly, I'm afraid to put this record out. I don't want to give that as my answer, but like, I am afraid of like you put so much like time, effort, like money, whatever, like into something and like, I mean, I love it so much that I'm gonna play music forever. I'm gonna play music to empty rooms. I'm gonna play like, I love being able to play music. So for me, I'm just gonna keep on doing it.
Mhm.
Um, but you put so much into something that you hope that it, kind of, gives you at least somewhat of what you're looking for. So like, we're about to go on this tour. We're gonna go on tour for like at least almost 3 weeks. So we all had, we're taking time off from work. I don't know, maybe our bosses are gonna, not be so happy when we come back or whatever. But
Right.
I'm kind of nervous for this record because it's, I mean, we've put so much into it. We put it, I mean, not just this past year alone, but this past year at least is like I've since last summer have like heads down tried, finishing this record and putting this record out, and I'm super excited for it to be out in the world. But I mean, it is nerve-wracking because it's like you don't know how people are gonna perceive it, and I mean, with Down, like, and Loose as well, but like with Down, we've been getting like a lot of like people hitting us up from all over the world and stuff. So it's like, it's you do these things, and like, you could be like scared or nervous and stuff, but then things happen that like, allow you to believe in yourself some more, and like to believe that like, what you're doing is somewhat right. I mean, we never know what we're doing is right, until
Until it's
we
done.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, until it's really done. So, but I'm super excited for this record. I'm super nervous. We're gonna be pressing it on vinyl, and we're gonna be, peddling it on our record and stuff, and trying to get people to listen, or when on our tour, and
Yeah.
so we're gonna trying to get people to listen to it during that and stuff. And but I'm so excited because it's gonna be super fruitful. I know it's going to be super rewarding, and I'm excited for the next record, and I'm excited to just keep on playing music, and I think it's such a privilege to be able to have that. I mean, a lot of people really love music, but might not have the time or
Right.
whatever, so I am super grateful because I know it is a privilege to be able to do what I'm doing, and to even just be able to talk to, to do what's up to you. I mean, that's like
Yeah.
such an awesome opportunity and something that a lot of people, even get to experience. So
Right.
it's so cool, with this new record and these new songs and stuff, because I'm getting a lot of experiences that I, didn't have before. Like we just got put in a magazine this past week and stuff, and like I had never been in a magazine, and like, but it's so cool, and like it really shows you that you can, like, if you just, put your mind to it truly, like, you can make this stuff happen. And if you love something enough, like, and it fulfills you, like, as long as you're just doing the things to like make it happen, or like just doing little things to just chisel away,
Right.
like the small things will, you'll, at some point get to that, that big, like fulfilling, fruitful experience, But yeah, I'm very, very nervous for this record, but I'm very excited.
I think that's a good way to be though, because it keeps you hungry for it, right? Like you're afraid to do it for a million reasons that are, emotional, personal, or logistic and technical, but it's something that's gonna happen anyway because it's what you love doing, and I think that's a good way to look at. I mean, any situation, but also just life in general, right? Like you have to do it for the sake of yourself. I've said it a lot. Like my favorite quote came from a book that I read when I was a kid. I think from a series of unfortunate events, and it was do the scary thing first, get scared later, and that's kind of how I
Mm,
force myself to go
I
through
love
life.
that.
Yeah. And so right now these songs I'm hearing them and I'm like, drawing parallels to my life, which, is a good callback to our earlier half of the show. And I think it's really cool to see how that manifests itself in other people's lives, right? Because, there's some people that you talk to that aren't creatives or that don't necessarily feel the need to push themselves through it. Some people just for whatever reason have it all figured out and it works for them. Um and so, being able to talk to other people, like for me, it's the other way around, right? Like I feel honored to get to talk to people like you and other creatives in the space who are making things happen and doing really cool things, right? And so it's cool to see that like in the space, we all kind of feel the same no matter what. And I've also been privileged enough to talk to, a million and one different people. And it seems like that's kind of the attitude where it's like no matter at what point of our career, our journey, or our path we're all on, like there's always a huge step into the next big thing, whether that's, doing a tour or, getting an interview or being put in a magazine or, getting to talk to a brand new band from Connecticut. So it's just cool. It's cool to see all the way around.
Yeah, no, this is super cool, and it's super cool to be able to just talk about, like, stuff that I've been wanting to talk about. When you get to it, it's like, you don't know that you're gonna be able to, or like you have all the thoughts that you thought you had about this stuff. But I love being able to talk about this stuff and talk about music because it is something that you know drives me. So
Yeah,
thank you.
100%. All right, I have one final question before we get to the end of the show, which I don't think I asked, which is crazy. Where does the name Soft Spot come from?
So, we we had like a couple names beforehand, and we were really trying to like figure out what like we wanted to be, and um, somebody had thrown out something about like a sensitive head, and I was like, oh yeah, and then somebody had mentioned it to do with like somebody's private parts, and I was like, all right, well, we won't be sensitive head then. And then Dave was like, sensitive head, what about a soft spot? Babies have soft spots on their sensitive heads. And I was like,
So
dude, why not? I
funny.
was like, soft spot's sweet. So
What an evolution. That's honestly
yeah,
the
so
most punk rock name you could have for a shoegaze band.
yeah, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
perfectly full circle. All right. Well, like I said, as our time here draws to a close, I just want to thank you, Gianni, for speaking to me, telling me about your project, telling me what's next. Obviously, I'm gonna be putting all of y'all's songs on loop as soon as they're out. It's a vibe. Congratulations on your success thus far. Best of
Thank
luck
you.
on the tour and whatever is next to come. Do you have any final closing remarks, statements, or shout outs that you'd like to give?
I mean, just like go out, support local music, you support your friends. We're playing June 13th to June 29th on the road, so come catch us if you want to come see us. So super stoked for this record and super stoked to meet people too from this. And I love meeting people at shows. And so if you ever anybody's in the area, anybody ever comes to a show, come up to me, come, introduce yourself, whatever, I'd love to meet everybody. So, and thank you, Carly, so much for having me on your show. Was a pleasure to be able to talk about music and, our band and stuff. And, it was really cool.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. I do have one final song for y'all as we sign off. And of course, as it's one of y'all's, I'll let you tell us a little bit about it before we go. Up next, we have Screw It. So, what can we expect? What should we know?
Screw It, came from as a song. It's just like I felt like really stuck in my ways of what I was doing. Like it sort of is tied in with like my relationship stuff because that's easy, but it's more of like you know, I don't really care. I guess I do care a lot about stuff, but you know, I don't like, almost don't care that I'm of how do I put this? Um, Screw It is another anthem. It's another like screw it. I don't care what I feel in my head, or if I feel like something's wrong, or if I feel like what I'm doing is wrong or whatever. I'm just screw it. Like I don't give an F. I'm just gonna freaking do it. Because that's all it is. It's like the stuff with Soft Spot and just doing our whatever we're doing, our stuff. You
Yeah.
know like get to the next point and like the you had mentioned, like do the scary stuff and then be scared later.
Mhm.
It's like usually you won't even be scared later because you'll be so happy and like that you just did it, that you said
Yeah.
screw it. I'm not giving it an F. I'm just gonna do it, and I'm gonna now get the things that I love and the things that I wanted to have happen for me. And if you didn't have that screw it moment, you wouldn't be able to get to that point.
Of course. Well,
So
I think that sums it up perfectly, and it also sums up where um, the podcast train of thought has been for the last few weeks. So I think that's perfect. Once again, thank you so much for being here. You're listening to WECS 90.1 FM. This is Podcast with a K, and I'm Carla with a K, signing off. We will be back next week with new nonsense and maybe some new guests. We'll see. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.